And an Egyptian court has recommended the death sentence for 31 people convicted in the killing of the former chief prosecutor. The court will give its final verdict next month after it refers its recommendation to the country's top religious authority. Hisham Barakat died in a car bomb attack on his convoy in Cairo 2 years ago. He was the most senior state official killed by armed groups in recent years. Let's get more on this now from Dalia Fahmy. She's a member of the Egyptian Rule of Law Association. She joins us now via Skype from New Brunswick in the US state of New Jersey. Dalia, what's your response first to this decision by the court to recommend the death sentence against these 31 people?
So the timing is not surprising. We saw a highly politicized week in Egypt where after the transfer of sovereignty of the two islands to Saudi Arabia from Egypt, the streets have been full of protesters. Now, the Egyptian government has used moments like this to signal to the Egyptian street that protests are not acceptable by handing down rulings at moments where people's anger is at an all-time high. So the timing is interesting because it comes on at a time where there are protests in Egypt that we have not seen in quite some time. So while it's expected that something would have happened this week from the state to signal to the people to return home, when it comes to the timing vis-a-vis the trial itself, it's not clear why this is issued today.
And Dalia, in terms of the case itself, what sort of evidence was presented in court? And was this evidence robust? Was it reliable?
So it was a very quick trial, but what we do know is that last year the Interior Minister released a video where several defendants confessed to having gone to Gaza to get training from Hamas. However, right after those very same individuals recanted and said that that confession was taken under duress. What we do know is that a terrorist organization named Popular Resistance has already claimed responsibility for this, and yet they have not been tried for this. We have seen individuals tried that have not part of this group. This group was not deemed a terrorist organization until February of this year. So it's not clear what the Egyptian government is doing. However, what we do know is that there has been a history of limited due process in Egypt. There have been 7,400 civilians under military trial, thousands of civilians tried, and we saw the mass death sentences that were both given 2 years ago and then overturned. So the highly politicized nature of the judiciary is questionable in terms of what the aims of the Egyptian government are.
Yeah, and just a final thought, Dalia. I mean, you talk about limited due process. I mean, the handing down of mass death sentences in Egypt seems to happen with alarming frequency. I mean, even Amnesty International has raised concerns about this.
Yes, they did historically, and they have this time. However, what we have not seen is the international community's outcry over increasing human rights violations in Egypt. And I think this is because we have seen, for example, in the case of the United States, President Trump's last visit to the Middle East was not about human rights. Rather, it was more about accepting the status quo. And so what we've seen is that the international community is not doing its due part on the issues of democracy, good governance, and especially human rights in the Middle East today.
Dalia Fahmy, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera. Now, thousands of people have protested